Coming up tonight, House prorogues a proclamation ending one session of Parliament and making way for a new legislative agenda. Plus, the chairman of the governing Progressive Liberal Party says the public still believes in their leadership. And later, from executive producer to executive chef, our Jerome Sawyer has some tips on to make your outdoor dining experience memorable this summer season. We've got those stories and more as our news weekend starts now. This is Our News Weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. A new session of Parliament begins October 4th, and with it a new legislation agenda for the Davis administration. The process beginning today with the proroguing of Parliament and ending the two-year-long sessions of both the House of Assembly and Senate. In a long-standing parliamentary tradition, today Police Commissioner Clayton Fernander, in his capacity as Provost Marshal, read a proclamation on behalf of the Governor General, initiated by the Prime Minister himself.
Now, therefore, I, Cornelius A. Smith, Governor General of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, do hereby prorogue Parliament as from Saturday, the 12th day of August 2023.
With only moments in between, there was a second proclamation announcing the reopening.
Now, therefore, I, Cornelius A. Smith, Governor General of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister, do hereby proclaim that the next session of Parliament shall be held in the city of Nassau, in the island of New Providence, on Wednesday, the 4th day of October 2023.
In talking to reporters gathered outside Parliament for the event, Attorney General Ryan Pinder categorizes this Davis-Cooper administration as successful after 2 years in government. He cites an aggressive legislative agenda with over 100 bills passed in Parliament.
Certainly there would be foreshadowing that there may be other changes coming. The Prime Minister will be addressing the nation with respect to some of those matters next week, and the circumstances with respect to proroguing the House of Assembly, and a framework for what we look to do in our new legislative session.
On October 4th, a new session of Parliament begins with the customary speech from the throne by the Governor General. It is speculated a new Governor General will do the honors, even though official announcements have not been made. Pinder was also pressed about a cabinet shuffle.
If I was the Prime Minister, I'd be able to answer that question. I'm not the Prime Minister, I'm the Attorney General, and therefore I sit at his pleasure, and as we all do. You're allowed to speculate. I wouldn't think that any of the things that you have mentioned really are any reason for proroguing the House today. I don't foresee a by-election. I don't foresee a general election. I don't foresee any of those items that you have mentioned. Certainly, we think that it is a good time, having almost halfway through our administration, 2 years of the 5 years through our administration, to be able to initiate a new legislative agenda.
He did, however, speak to some of the legislation coming.
Everything that was on the table that is being left, as you know, when you prorogue Parliament, any bills left on the table go away. We will bring all of those back. We will bring certainly the Mining Act back to be debated early on in the session. That provides a framework for exploitation of our natural resources. We have a compendium of anti-corruption legislation. You would have noted the Ombudsman bill is left on the table. We look to compound that with a new Public Disclosure Act and an Anti-Whistleblower Act, as well as a code of conduct for the public service, and bring that all back together as an anti-corruption suite of legislation. The National Health Insurance Amendment is a very important part of our health care initiative.
The proroguing of Parliament is not uncommon in the Westminster system and simply signals the ending of one session and the beginning of another. It is different from dissolution, which ends the life of Parliament, thereby triggering a general election. The Office of the Prime Minister releasing a subsequent statement on the prorogation and reopening of Parliament. It says, in part, the country is moving in the right direction and there is still so much work to do. It goes on to preview some of the legislation coming, mentioning that priority will be given to policies addressing the high cost of living, lifting up people, and strengthening economic and national security. It also highlights some of the two-year accomplishments like lifting COVID curfews, ending the travel visas, ending the emergency orders, implementing free COVID testing, expunging records for minor breaches of the emergency orders, safely reopening the economy and schools, stabilizing the national finances, and raising minimum wage. The public still has confidence in us. That's the position of the PLP chairman, Fred Mitchell, who believes that despite multiple allegations of wrongdoing and calls for PLP ministers and MPs to resign, they still have public support. He's confident the evidence supports his view.
There's no evidence to me that we've lost the goodwill and faith of the Bahamian public. But as I say, you go through highs and lows. But we keep on a positive trajectory.
Recently, North Abaco Member of Parliament Kirk Cornish stood before a magistrate on charges of rape, assault, and threats of death. Less than 24 hours before his arraignment, Cornish resigned as parliamentary secretary in the office of the Prime Minister. Immigration Minister Keith Bell has also come under fire for what many see as questionable actions within the department with the granting of work permits and citizenship. Still, the PLP chairman says there are always highs and lows.
What I say is that life goes on every day and you apply yourself in government, whether there's good news or bad news. And the forward trajectory of the country is positive, largely. The opposition has a facility with its friends in the media to turn good into bad. That's their job, I imagine. But we are focused on the task, which is trying to complete our term in office.
A former senior House of Assembly staffer says there should have been more consultation on the recently passed Parliamentary Services Bill. The bill was passed July 26. While he's happy it passed, the former clerk, Maurice Tynes, believes it could have benefited from better consultation.
I personally would have liked to see a little wider consultation on some of the issues involved. But I can't say how widely consultation did take place. I will have to assume that they did, but I would have liked to see more of the civic organizations and civil society chime in on it.
The bill established an autonomous body independent of the executive branch of government and the civil service. It places the responsibility for parliamentary service under the control and management of the Parliamentary Service Commission. Prime Minister Philip Davis said the bill will transcend party lines and administrations. Meanwhile, Tynes says while the bill may not impact the independence of the Speaker, it will give the appearance the Parliament has control of its business.
Right now, when members of Parliament have to travel to conferences, they have to write in a cabinet paper. They have to get approval from the Ministry of Finance, and whereas if the Parliament has a budget, it's approved, it's controlled by the Speaker. Then, if they have the funds in there, it ought not be no need for them to have to consult with other institutions.
A 29-year-old man of Ladyfish Street, Grand Bahama, is in hospital tonight after a stabbing overnight. Police tell us that sometime around 9:30, the victim was at a bar near Atlantic Drive when he got into a fight with a man who allegedly pulled a knife and stabbed him several times. The suspect fled while the victim was transported to hospital in a private vehicle, and he is listed as stable. Meantime, 20-year-old Stephen Moultrie Jr. of Central Pines, Abaco was arraigned before senior magistrate Ancella Evans in court number 1 in Marsh Harbor on Friday on 1 count of vehicular manslaughter. He pleaded not guilty and was granted $9,000 bail. Moultrie has to be back in court on September 6, 2023, where he will be served a voluntary bill of indictment. This charge is in connection with the traffic fatality that occurred on Friday, January 13th of this year in Dundastown, Abaco. Still to come on Our News Weekend, tourism is booming with a record-breaking number of arrivals expected this year. Here are the plans for even more airlift from different destinations. Plus, our neighbors to the south also experiencing an uptick in tourism numbers. More development is on the way for Turks and Caicos. That's coming up when Our News Weekend returns.
Doctors Hospital is reimagined primary care. We have invested to improve our health system, ensuring that accessible, affordable, world-class clinical care is closer to you. Your relationship with a primary care provider shapes the foundation of your overall health. Our new, modern primary care facilities are where critical diagnosis and true personalized treatment begin. With locations across New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Exuma, we invite you to experience the Doctors Hospital difference. Book your next appointment at clinics.doctorshos.com.
2023 is forecasted to be another record-breaking tourism year with an expected 8 million visitors. However, the majority will enter through the new cruise port as air arrivals pale in comparison. Director General in the Ministry of Tourism, Latia Duncombe, while appearing on the record with Jerome Sawyer this week, clarified the difference.
From a cruising perspective, the Bahamas is an ideal destination because of the proximity and what it has to offer. From an airlift perspective as well, we're perfectly positioned as it relates to our proximity to the U.S. and airlift into the destination is significant.
Duncombe spoke proudly about the growing demands from newer markets, referencing a new direct Los Angeles to Nassau route as an example of the aggressive behind-the-scenes effort that's paying off.
Seattle is another one that's also coming on stream in December. That now opens up the West Coast and also the Asian market. So there's China, there's Japan. There's a lot of opportunities and even some traffic coming in from Toronto. When we assess airlift, we also have to remember there's heads and beds, there's buns and seats. And so we also need the inventory, the hotel inventory in place as we assess airlift performance as well.
Duncombe expects even more traffic from other international markets.
We have significant airlift coming in from London, so check that part's covered. When we look at Paris, there's a seasonal flight into Grand Bahama. When we look at Italy, there's a seasonal flight going into San Salvador. We are in discussions with Germany and some other Latin American markets. So there's always a discussion in the background going on. And stakeholder engagement with our promotion board, Nassau Paradise Island, Bahama Out Island Promotion Board, the Grand Bahama Promotion Board, they're always pivotal.
With 3.5 million visitors within the first 4 months of the year, tourism numbers suggest we are well on the way to surpassing 8 million visitors this year and surpassing the historic 2019 visitor arrival numbers. But we aren't the only ones experiencing the tourism boom. Just to the south, the Turks and Caicos Islands are seeing record numbers in arrivals. But as our news affiliate, Magnetic Media, reports, there is increasing pressure for the airport upgrades. Here is Deandra Hamilton.
Some say the Turks and Caicos has a good problem. Demand for travel to the destination is outpacing its ability to offer a comfortable airport experience to travelers. Others say it's time to fix it, and that will mean a redevelopment of the Providenciales International Airport to the tune of over $400 million. The UK Secretary of State has approved that this urgent expansion can be done through a public-private partnership, but there has to be political consensus. So far, the PPP has not gotten that. It did narrowly pass through the House of Assembly late last month when the Premier brought the motion. However, the opposition did not support it, explaining in a press conference they want the airport put into the hands of the people, not private developers.
Yes, we support it, but we support moving in the right direction, moving with the right option, bringing our people along, allowing our people to benefit from what is going on, the money making here in the country, and the airport is a cash cow.
It's about high time that we, position our people. The truth is, you don't need to be that educated to know when a good opportunity presents itself in investing.
If we cannot get no satisfactory conclusion from this, we may have no other alternative but to write it to the Secretary of State, informing him as to what.
But the Minister of Border Services, Arlington Musgrove, says the fine details of the PPP are not determined, and there is a chance for public ownership.
The TCIA is currently in talks with international financial experts, such as Colena Financial Advisors, for assisting with the navigating potential for local investment opportunities. Mr. Speaker, this means that we are also exploring that Turks and Caicos Islanders can buy shares into the airport, the redeveloping new airport. Mr. Speaker.
Two reports were presented with that motion. One in 7 pages said it is reasonable to go forward with a private partner. The other in 47 pages recommends the government and the TCI people can fund the expansion together. From the Turks and Caicos Islands, DeAndre Hamilton reporting.
Thanks so much, Deandra. Promoters will now have to pay an occasional business license fee to hold events, as government seeks to take in more revenue from previously untaxed areas. Controller of Inland Revenue Acting, Shunda Strawn, explains that the $750 fee will only apply to those selling tickets for the events.
If you are bringing in somebody from the states to perform and you're selling tickets, that's the catch, right? You're selling tickets, it's at a public place, on public premises. You're inviting in an entertainer, whether it be Bahamian or foreigner. You're selling tickets, I'm going to say that again, right? And you're going to put up this nice stage and have lighting, and you're spending money because you expect that you will generate a pretty sizable turnover. Then your occasional license fee is $750.
The acting controller warns that enforcement units will be cracking down on events to ensure compliance. However, there are some organizations exempt from the occasion fee. These include churches and civic organizations.
Do I need to pay the $750 for cookouts? No. It's not for cookouts. It's not for regattas or homecoming or any kind of civil type of entertainment.
When our news comes back from the break, a legacy immortalized. Our Marlena Leonard has the story of the man they called Rosie and why his memory will live on in Grand Key. Plus, as summer winds down, we have the perfect spot for you to wind down. The exciting details of the Cat Island experience are on the way when our News Weekend returns. Welcome back. A beloved member of the Grand Key community is forever immortalized with the renaming of a local government complex in his honor. Marlena Leonard has the story of the renaming and the man known as Rosie.
I want the people of Grand Key, children, all of them to know who Roosevelt Curry was. And you'll see the name. You'll ask the question, who was he? Why is it? He's the only person in Grand Key that has a government complex named after him.
Grand Key's Government Administrators Complex is now officially the Roosevelt Franklin Rosie Curry Administration Complex, dedicated to the island's beloved late Chief Counselor. Curry served in local government since its start in 1996 and remained undefeated in the years he ran for Chief Counselor of Grand Key's District Council. Family Island Affairs Minister Clay Sweeting dubbed it Rosie Day, describing Curry as an unforgettable force, the best of local government.
He was one of the longest-serving local government practitioners who, like a few others, served on the local board of works before the establishment of local government in 1996. We've heard so much about how he was an entrepreneur and how he provided for his family, but more so how he provided for his family and the residents of the people of Grand Key.
Curry's daughter, Renee Curry, says beyond the renaming of the building, her father's legacy lives on in the sayings, values, and behavior he instilled in his children and those who worked around him in Abaco.
I think that everyone here can attest to that Daddy was definitely a giver. So whatever you needed, you called on him, and he was there to render services. And I think in that respect, he's kind of put that on us as well. Renee, see what you can do. Definitely, Laverne, see what you can do. You know, and it's like he had a lot of sayings, well, let's just make it happen. Just see what you can do. Oh, it is what it is. So he will go down with a lot of sayings, but then those meant a lot to him, and those came from the heart. So we, as his family, will try to continue his legacy. I know we have a lot of work to do, but we will never let his legacy down.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena. Well, it is home to the highest point in the Bahamas, arguably the birthplace of rake and scrape, and was once home to Academy Award winner Sir Sidney Poitier. Cat Island is one of the largest islands in the country, but with a small population, something visitors find quite refreshing and relaxing. If you're looking for the perfect Cat Island experience, we've got you covered.
Welcome to Andre DeVille Great House. This is one of our stop on our History Lover tour. On the property you have the kitchen over to our left, you have the Great House, and then in the back you have the guest house and then the outhouse. He was the colonel that actually recaptured Nassau, and in exchange he was given this plantation with 1,200 acres of property.
And that's just one of the many interesting historical sites you can visit and learn about on Cat Island. Owner of Cat Island Experience, Danson Danny King, says visitors always question what is there to do on the small island. Well, he says his company offers a variety of tours to satisfy any interest.
They can last from anywhere from 3 to 7 hours. It's whatever your appetite is. You have the nature lover, history lovers, music, even a pirate tour.
King tries to get visitors to experience the island beyond just the beaches.
A lot of historical sites. We have a lot of nature trails. We have a lot of nature areas where you would love to basically interact with the community. But in offering the tours, I wanted people to have the feel of how we used to live, and in some cases still live today.
And in case you find yourself in Cat Island soon, here are some options.
Well, we call it the Mountain of the Bahamas, 206 feet above sea level. Our snorkeling trips is also a highlight. We partner with a few people to basically also offer scuba diving. Even the Healing Pond. Welcome to Cat Island Healing Pond, our version of the Dead Sea. It not only has healing properties, but if you just want to take a nice warm dip, this is the place to come.
With so much to offer on the island, more Bahamians are showing up. Luckily, there's always room for domestic tourists.
And them taking the tour, they was like, you know, hey, this is what we wanted. And I was like, hey, you know, you come to an island where everything is free, you know, just relax. You know, some of them kind of a little uptight when they get here, and they'd be like, hey, just calm down, you know. We ain't in rush hour traffic. We ain't got nothing to rush for. Just take it easy. When they're leaving, you know, they always leave with a good experience. When you come to the out island, you basically helping us here in the community. You know, our population might only be 1,500, 2,000. So when you're talking about Nassau, where you have over 300,000 people plus, you know, you might have just a weekend. Just come on down for a weekend, you know, just touch base with us, and I'm sure we can give you a wonderful experience.
And still to come, our Jerome Sawyer chefs it up outdoors. Let's see what's cooking right after this break. Thanks for sticking with us. And now it's time for a check on your weather forecast over the next few days. The summer months are ideal for outdoor cooking. The traditional grill, beach, and backyard barbecues are common for this time of year. But what are the best menu items and how do you avoid summertime dining disasters? Jerome Sawyer has a few helpful tips.
Horatio Smith is a professional chef with 18 years in the business. He owns 2 restaurants between Eleuthera and Harbour Island. He's recently started catering more outdoor events as part of a growing popular trend toward outdoor kitchens and extreme events.
It's an adventure. It's an adventure. You have to go outside. You have to deal with all of the dynamics of being outside, and you have the challenges, but the challenges provide jokes, and fun, for you to overcome. And when you have the right people, it actually helps. It helps the environment. Everybody involved. It's a story that we've all experienced the memory, and we've all watched it come together. Gone through the hardship, the heat, the this, the that, to get to the full belly.
But outdoors can mean food safety risks, especially in these extremely hot temperatures. Chef Smith shares a few tips that can keep your meals clean and safe.
Do you have ice readily available? Do you have a pitcher to wash up? Do you have garbage bags? What are you going to do for the flies? Do you have extra pan if something drops or whatever like that? And obviously, if you're dealing with seafood, like we did fish today, but I had my fish on ice the whole time, and it just went from the ice to the grill. And even with the fruits and things that we use, we try to use things that could sit out.
He says avoid mayonnaise and similar dressings as much as possible, while fresh herbs, olive oil and lime are recommended. And of course, we asked, what are the best outdoor menu suggestions?
Grilled foods are really good. Even broiling foods are really like putting it in a roaster, because you can just put it in and walk away and not have to be in the hot sun. Salads are really good. A lot of people think that a salad has to always just be lettuce. If you can make a salad out of zucchini, and you could roast your zucchini the day before, put it in the fridge and chop it up and make a cold zucchini salad, So prep is a big part of it as well. But I would say vegetables and fruits, lean meats, fresh seafood, if you're going to use seafood, really fresh. And try your best if you're getting things from your fisherman, your fishmonger, you want to make sure that he or she is not in the sun with the stuff, because then it's not in the temperature time zone, and you may buy something that already may be contaminated.
So no matter your taste or skill level, good planning and hygiene should always be top of menu. Bon appetit. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
Couldn't help but notice there's no video evidence of you cooking in the kitchen, Mr. Sawyer, but I'll leave that there. We thank you for your report, and we thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Megan Shepard. Have a safe and wonderful weekend.